Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dexter Gaming and the second episode of the SSF playthrough for the Lightning Arrow Deadeye, where we're only using graveyard crafting. This episode, there's a few things that I wanted to get done. First thing I needed to do was carry on farming corpses on my corpse tree. My first tree is specifically set up to farm maps, corpses, and all flames, so that's what we're going to do. It's set up to give lots of extra effect of map modifiers and just boosting the chance as much as you can to drop corpses. It's quite a deadly tree, but it's needed for this sort of playthrough to get through the level of corpses that I want to get done. We also need to think about our second Atlas tree, and what I settled on was Legion, and the reason being is a Legion jewel is going to be a nice addition to the build. We're going to need to craft a new helmet, new gloves, new quiver, a new ring, and that's going to basically make all of the gear that I have on graveyard crafted, and that's kind of phase one of the playthrough out of the way. In terms of Legion jewels, we're going to farm 4-way as much as we can. We're looking for either a Brutal Restraint or a Lethal Pride. Lethal Pride comes from Karui and Brutal Restraint comes from Maraketh. So I just need to make sure that I have those in the 4-way, and that gives me a chance of dropping the jewel when I kill the bosses. In terms of the Legion tree, it's fairly simple. I'm just keeping shrines because I actually am still quite squishy and my damage is not amazing. Legion is quite a difficult mechanic. So we're taking all of the Legion nodes, all of the shrine nodes, we're keeping some map nodes, we're blocking some content that we don't want to see. It also gives us more chance to get Legion. And then with the spare points, I've just taken a chance to get some scarabs. So pretty early on, we've got a craft ready to go. I did mention in the last video I needed to get the helmet replaced. We've gone for quite a simple craft here. Just 1 increased life, 1 increased chaos with a buff up from column rows, 2 lots of resistance. And then we're just making some things scarcer that can roll. So physical can roll on prefixes. Obviously attributes can roll. Defense mods, you have to block. Otherwise you might end up getting lots of evasion mods and no life. Attack, there's a couple of attack mods. And we're just making life scarcer because of the suffixes on life. You don't really need much increased life to actually get it to appear on prefixes. Defense block is probably the most important one because that means you should hit life even if you just want a 5 mod item. Because we've gone for increased resistance and increased chaos, we should be more likely to roll 3 suffixes. So I'm going to risk having an empty slot because I would love to craft Fizz Taken as Fire as my prefix. What we're looking for is just life and resistances. We're only going up to 80% modified tiers. So essentially, if something like life has 10 tiers, we can only roll T1 and 2, which I'm absolutely fine with. We'll replace this helmet eventually, but I need to get mana cost onto my helmet with some Eldritch Orbs, and I can't do it on my current helmet because it is terrible. I don't have any quality left, but 20 to 30 is not too much of a difference for a helmet. This was just a random craft from burying a random corpse. We'll obviously 4-socket it and 4-link it. And I think that's everything we need. I don't have any reroll left in terms of the affixes, so we're just going to have to go as it is. So we're going to go helmet, evasion, lion pelt. Item level 83 is fine. 5 explicit modifiers. So let's just hope for life, an open prefix, and some resistances. So here we go. I have a good feeling about this one.
Anguish and aid this soldier so that you may allow them to be headstrong.
Let's check it out. And it's decent. Chaos resistance would have been amazing. We didn't get it, but you can't really complain at that helmet. We've got T2, T2, T3 resistances, T2 life, T2 evasion. We can then go and put our Fizz Taken as onto the helmet. We can replace our current bad helmet. It again gives us loads of resistances, so it means we might at some point in the future be able to put a taming on as a ring because we're not going to need resistances, although that does give you some. It also frees up lots of options for things like gloves. If we don't need resistances, we can try and get things like attack speed, accuracy, open suffix to get crit and melee damage. It opens up loads of options if we can cram resistances into things like helmets where you can't really get anything else that's any good. So we're going to go and craft Fizz Taken as Fire, which is an Exalt. 4-socket this. Link it up. And then we're going to need to get blue, green, green, red. So we'll just go 1 blue. There we go. And that should be a nice boost. So that's the last bit of armor gone. So we're now 0 armor, but we have got 11% plus 8%. So we've got 19% Fizz Taken as. And ideally, we can get the prefix, implicit, on the Eldritch to get Fizz Taken as. And then we'll try and get mana cost of attacks as well. So I don't think we need to keep that helmet. And yeah, we're so far over on resistances that once we are finished upgrading all our gear, we can look at what doesn't need resistances and what would be great to stack stuff on. So things like boots, we could get avoid elite ailments, although that would be essence crafting, which technically I'm not allowed to do, so maybe we can't do that. But yeah, there's loads of things we can do. We don't need resistances on maybe this ring when we replace it, and we can just try and stack damage, attack speed, things like that. But we'll come on to that later. We'll go and try and craft some implicits on this helmet. So for mana cost of attacks, less is absolutely fine. It's not a mega rare mod. It's got kind of the same outcome as most mods, so we're going to hope for it. There we go. Perfect. And then we're going to try and roll either mana reservation or fizz taken as Ellie. Mana reservation is quite rare though. And obviously with fizz taken as elemental, there's lots of different ones that you can hit. Oh, we hit chaos. Unlucky. We didn't get it, so that's something we need to aim for. So I've now grinded a bit more, got to level 94. I've set up a Legion tree on my second tree because I want to try and get a Lethal Pride. We've got quite a few emblems already, so there'll be some footage farming some Legion, but I thought it was time to try and craft the Quiver. We've used lots of the random beast crafts and ended up with some decent modifiers, so we've got quite a bit of less resistance, which is all from the random craft. I haven't been putting these down because they're very rare. We're doing scarcer on fizz, chaos, life, resistance, and attributes. Got a modified tier up to 82%. I've just been really on a dry streak of these. I've got like one in about 15 maps. Sometimes you get, you know, loads in a row. So I've decided, because I want to go to bed, I'm just going to get this Quiver crafted. So doing +2 to explicits. We're doing increased chance of cold and lightning to try and get the cold and lightning flat damage for prefixes. Life to roll life, obviously. Speed, more crit than speed because speed brings projectile speed in, and crit multi is the most important thing for the Quiver. And that's kind of it. So we don't have any reroll explicits again, so we're going to have to settle with the tiers that drop. I think I've got everything I need, so we're just going to go and craft our Quiver, which is going to be a broadhead arrow quiver for attack speed. And then we will cross our fingers. It will be decent anyway, but it just depends whether how many dead mods we get on it, really. So let's exercise it. Let's find out.
Free you of your anguish and aid this soldier, so that you may house their tools of justice.
Let's hope this is decent. And that is good. We couldn't really have expected much better unless we hit attack speed instead of projectile speed. So once I had these items crafted, it was time to try Legion out. I had my tree set up. I had 6 Legion scarabs to use. I used Legion on the map device, so I was able to farm, in the few maps that I did, 10 emblems. It was quite rippy though, so I decided once I had enough for a 4-way, I was going to take a punt. I could get a jewel. As soon as I had enough to put in a Karui and a Marikath emblem, I went in. These 4-ways were doable, but not super smooth, but luckily, on the only one I've done so far, I've dropped a fairly decent Brutal Restraint jewel with increased LE damage, prod speed, life, and some other good mods. It's not amazing, but I would say it's certainly better than average. I don't really want to carry on Legion at the moment till my character's a bit stronger, so we're going to leave that tree for now. After that, I decided to try and attempt a glove craft, which we'll show now. So I've now got the corpses I need to try and craft my pair of gloves. I'm going to do something a bit different this time. I'm going to try and fracture a mod on an item. We'll come on to why at the end of the video. But on this one, I want to try and get attack speed and chaos resistance. So because of that, I'm blocking pretty much everything else. We're blocking life, elemental, fire, cold. I don't have a lightning, but we've got those low enough. Defense, attributes, and mana are basically blocking everything. So the prefixes, we're probably not going to get much very good. But the idea is to try and get high chaos resistance, high attack speed, and fracture one of those. We've also got a chance of hitting spell suppression because we're blocking a lot of the other things that can appear in suffixes. This is a gamble craft because it could be that we just brick it completely, get a terrible pair of gloves with a terrible fracture. But my gloves are okay. If these don't succeed, it's not the end of the world. So we're going to go and craft gloves, evasion, slink gloves, and then we're going to craft item level 85 because T1 suppression can roll on that. If we could fracture T1 suppression, that'd be really nice. If we can fracture chaos resistance, that'd be decent as well. But these are not guaranteed to get chaos res on them. We should hit attack speed, and that's kind of all we're guaranteed. So we're going to have to go and see how this works. This is a bit of a punt, I'll be honest. So we'll go and craft.
May the shine of Solaris burn away your anguish and aid this soldier, so that you may allow
I can't see
them
half
to
the screen
grant
because my
their
cat's head's in the way,
destiny.
but... And yeah, we got terrible. We fractured rarity. I can't see. Let me move it somewhere I can see. So yeah, these are a brick. We got chaos resistance, accuracy. We were very unlucky not to get attack speed. It was something like 40% likely to roll. So it's very, very unlucky not to roll attack speed. It's not the worst pro gloves in the world because we did get life, cold damage to attacks, accuracy, chaos resistance, and an open prefix. But we fractured rarity, which we didn't really want. So the fact that I haven't got attack speed on them means they're probably worse. I don't really need the chaos resistance at the moment. Like, we're not capped, but is it going to make a world of difference? Probably not. So that's going to chalk one down to the brick pile, and we will just put it in a random stash just in case we want to use them later. The fracture is a shame because really accuracy, life, or chaos resistance would have been quite a nice fracture. Oh well, we move on to the next one. So after the failed craft from the gloves, I decided I didn't have it in me to just farm more corpses on its own, so it's time to use the third Atlas tree, and we're going to go destructive play. The main reason for destructive play is it's going to help us get our Maven writs to get our third Void Stone, and it's going to help us get the boss maps to get the Uber Elder fragments to get our fourth Void Stone. Whether my character's strong enough to defeat those yet at the moment is another matter, but we can always give it a go. I've decided I just want to concentrate on destructive play rather than other things. So I've added in shrines again to help me out because it can be quite difficult on a character that's got low single target DPS. We've put in some scarab nodes, and then I've also took all of the corpse nodes just so I can kill two birds with one stone. I'll continue farming corpses, and at the same time I can also do destructive play for the bosses. The good thing about combining them both is that all of the haunted mods that you put on monsters can't be put on bosses, they go on to normal monsters. So it essentially means I can do corpse farming and boss map farming at the same time. So we'll jump in, start doing some maps, and we'll see how we get on. Destructive play actually felt pretty good, and single target damage is going to be plenty to go and get the next two Void Stones. I completed a few 10 ways before deciding to craft my last Amethyst ring. And I got pretty unlucky with this craft. I somehow didn't manage to roll life on the ring despite it being very heavily weighted. Luckily, I didn't need non-channeling skills on this ring, so I could just craft life and carry on. It gave me even more resistances to the build, so I am super over my resistances now, but it does mean if I find a good unique I want to equip, I don't have to worry about balancing resistances. It also means I can handle some of the major downsides of the Eldritch Altars. I took on my first formed invitation at 87% quantity and just about managed this deathless despite a very close call from a Minotaur Burrow. I then completed one more 10 way to get my first Maven writ and dispatched Maven pretty comfortably and deathless. I actually got insane loot, and the chest that dropped is something I could decide to 6-link later on if I get the fusings, since it gives good defenses. I also dropped an Awakened Chain. The loot was, pretty mad. If I would have got this in my first Maven kill in trade, I would have been swimming in currency. So the idea was to get the Maven Voidstone and then call the video there, but I think we may as well go a bit further. The character is now easily good enough to do Maven and Uber all that too many problems. Like, I am still dying every now and again because I have a max fizz hit of about 5,500, even with all the fizz taken as Ellie, and a life pool of 4,500. So there are deaths in the gameplay, but I think we've got a decent destructive play tree unlocked. We can get some Watcher's Eyes to drop. I've already had one, which was Grace Effect, to get extra evasion. Not amazing, but to get the first Watcher's Eye drop, and it's actually one I can use, is pretty decent. So what we're going to do now is just going to be lots of highlights of me farming different maps, getting more corpses, getting boss maps, unlocking Uber Elder. I need to think about what my next craft is going to be. We're actually building up some decent corpses. We've got 3 or maybe 4 of the additional crafts. So if you put that in a row and column bonus along with like 40% additional effect around it as much as you can, I think we could probably get it that we can craft 2 additional copies of an item. I just need to figure out what I want that to be. It's probably going to be gloves, and we're maybe going to go and try for +1 frenzy charge, because the gloves are the only item I haven't upgraded. We don't need resistances on it, so we can basically just go for as much haunted mods as we can, reduce all the other ones, which I think are mainly like caster and chaos, and then just try and get +1 frenzy. We'll throw some fractures in there as well to try and fracture +1 frenzy and something decent, and then we'll go from there. One thing I wanted to cover off now before we continue is I've decided to change the series up a little bit, because just limiting myself to graveyard crafting once you've got your basic gear seems a bit silly. No one else is going to be able to play along because you'd be an idiot if you basically blocked out every other crafting method. So we still are going to only be able to use graveyard crafting, but we can use graveyard crafting to craft bases that we can then use things like essence, harvest, fossils, whatever we want to craft on. So the rules haven't really changed. In order to use a base, it has to be a graveyard crafted base. I can't ID an amazing right off the ground. I can't pick up a T1 fracture and use essences on that. I can only use the bases that I craft in the graveyard. And it's really the only way we're going to get better gear. Like we can graveyard craft better gear, but they're going to be bigger crafts. It might take me, because I'm not playing a huge amount, might take me 2 to 3 days to grind those corpses. And then you miss a craft and it just doesn't feel great. So I think we'll add in a stipulation that we can use other crafting methods, but only on bases that we've generated through graveyard crafting. So it's going to be plenty of highlights to come, and then we'll wrap up the video and we'll see where the character is. So we'll wrap the video up with Uber Elder. Now, this is my Achilles heel, this fight. I'm absolutely terrible at it. I always lose at least 2 to 3 portals. I always get a death really early on by being stupid. I'm just hoping that we don't brick this, because it's a bit of a pain that this is locked behind a Void Stone, to be fair. Your Void Stones are locked behind here, because it is much harder to unlock the Maven. Maven, you do a couple of invitations, you've got your writ. Uber Elder, you need to do obviously 16 Guardians, then you need to do your 4 bosses, and then if you don't get the right fragments, you either need to buy them on trade or use Harvest to re-roll them, which we've done. It's obviously much better than it used to be. I remember 3 leagues ago I ended up with 9 of the same red fragment, and it just took me so long to get the 4 Void Stones. I do wish they would move the 4th one to something like Cirrus. It's an easier boss, it's much more accessible. Uber Elder is just a bit of a pain and expensive to do in something like trade. So we're squishy as hell. We're going to take deaths. Let's just hope that we've got enough DPS to get through it. We should be okay. So we're going to have to take reduced effective chill. We need that for this fight. No idea what else to take on here. We'll maybe take life charges. Maybe. Who knows? So we'll just hope for the best. I'll just hope I don't die straight away, which is what normally happens. Because this is a fight. Once you get the rhythm, it's okay. You die a couple of times and you've got to get back in. Find Shaper, make sure you're safe. It gets a bit more difficult. But yeah, I'm going to get at least 2 Shaper beams to the face. We definitely won't be Maven in it. So let's go and hope that we can get this encounter done. And then the trick for people that struggle, which is what helps me out, is just follow Shaper. Elder can kill you, potentially, but most builds should be able to take most of what Elder throws at you as long as you've got some sort of recovery. But you need to keep an eye on Shaper, because if he goes off the screen and you're concentrating on, say, Elder, you get a Shaper beam to the face. Early on, you're very unlikely to have the defenses to deal with that. So that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and follow Shaper. We're going to try and make sure we take out any of the tentacle things. I will say Lightning Arrow, even though it's squishy, is a decent build for this fight because your arrows are going to cover a lot of the screen. So it might be you actually kill some of the tentacles and portals without even aiming at them. You might be aiming at something else. I found this fight on my Lightning Strike character quite difficult because it's obviously melee. You got to get up close, and then anything happening on the other side of the screen you can't really deal with. Ballistas are going to be a bit of a pain to keep up in this fight. Where's he gone? There he is. I've lost him again. There he is. So I'm just going to keep an eye. I'm not too bothered how much DPS I do on Elder. Oh, idiot. Say keep an eye on him. Totally took me off him. He teleported. I thought I would get phased before he teleported. This is what always happens to me. I'm so lazy on this fight. I take my eye off the ball and stuff like that happens. And an early death really annoys me in this fight. So we'll just go in, get our bearings. We've got a ball we need to pop there. Shapers around. Oh, we have phased at least. But we need to make sure. Oh, there he is. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on him for when he moves. There he is. Right, he's beaming, so we can at least go and get some stuff done here while he does that. Oh, he's phased though already. So we'll try and phase him again. Elder's absolutely kicking my bumhole. Right, he's on the top left now, so we'll keep an eye on him again. Just want to get this ball out of the way and somewhere safe. We'll just kite it around for the whole time, I guess, but... I'll put it there. Seems fine. There's another ball over there, so we'll try and drag it over here. Oh, that nearly killed me. Right, we'll try and quickly take Shaper down. So, yep, cool. Done. Now I need to keep an eye on him, though. Where is he? Over there. Oh, that exploded way quicker than I thought it was going to. I thought that circle had just started. That was my fault. I thought I had longer to get back into the ring. I didn't. Died. Usual. Just carry on. I mean, we should be fine from here, to be fair. We've got ample DPS. So we've got... Where's Shaper? There he is. Ooh. Nearly killed me again. We're not doing great at this fight, I have to say, but... I don't know what's going on. Oh, it's a tentacle phase, portal phase even. I'm not doing very well with these balls as usual, dropping them all over the place. But I think this is the last phase, I think. Right, let's try and find him. Where is he? He's there. Nearly died again. Right, we'll get... I don't think we need to get back in yet, but we will anyway. Whoa, that was close. Okay, that's him done. And that's Uber Elder finished. So yeah, as usual, shit show for me, but we got it done. Drop a Watcher's Eye, please. No joy. Oh, wrong one as well. Mark of the Shaper. Mark of the Elder would have been good, but hey-ho. I don't think we need any influence items, but that's done. 4 Void Stones sorted out. I'll put a POB in the video description for where the character is. I don't even know where I want to go from now. I'm starting to build up some good grave crafting materials. No idea what content I want to farm. Now I don't necessarily need to do destructive play. I guess we can get our last few invitations finished and then we'll see where it takes us. Again, thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.